Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we are solving a rational equation by finding the LCD of our fractions. And if you're ready, let's get started. In solving our rational equation today, we're going to begin by first finding our LCD. So we're looking at the LCD of the terms in our denominator, which is y and y minus 3. Now I know in looking at these two terms, we are naturally going to think that y minus 3 is pretty much the same thing as y in some sense except for the minus 3. But I want you to remember that when it comes to terms, y and y minus 3 are two different terms. Y by itself is just a variable and y minus 3 is what we call an expression. Since we have an expression and a variable, to find our LCD for these two terms, well, our term and our expression, is going to be y and y minus 3. So that will be our LCD. And again, like I said in a previous video, I usually advise you not to expand your LCD, but to leave it in this format so that when you have to perform your multiplication, it's easier to cancel out what is common and then just multiply by what remains over. So now we're going to be changing our fractions into their equivalent form where both has a denominator of y and y minus 3. So let's begin with our first term, which is 12y, and we're changing that to its equivalent form. Remember that if you're at that point where you can work out the question right on the screen, by all means feel free to do that. But again, I have to work for my persons who are not at that point and are following along for the first time, or they just need the additional assistance to help them with working through the question. Okay, so we have y and y minus 3. Sorry, y and y. So our y's will cancel in the sense, and we're going to be multiplying our y minus 3 to 12. And remember that 12 is being multiplied to everything in our parentheses. So 12 will be multiplied to y, which will equal to 12y. And 12 will also be multiplied to the negative 3, which would equal to minus 36. So our first term is 12y minus 36. Okay, so now that we have changed our first fraction into its equivalent form, we're now going to be doing the exact same thing with our second fraction, which is 9 and y minus 3. And again, changing that into its equivalent form. So we're looking at what is not common in the denominator. So we have y minus 3 and y minus 3, which means that my 9 will be multiplied to y. So 9 times y is equal to 9y. So now that we have officially changed our fraction into their equivalent form, we're now going to solve for our unknown variable y. And we're going to begin by collecting our like terms. Now I'm going to move 12 to the other side of the equation since my y is already on the right hand side. And since 12 is positive on the left hand side, that means I will subtract 12y on the right hand side. So I have negative 36 is equal to 9 minus 12. Using my rules of integers will equal to a negative 3y. Now both sides of my equation will be divided by my negative 3 to get my variable by itself. So my 3's will cancel, leaving me with y, and 3 divided into itself once. 3 divided into 36 is 12. And so my y is equal to 12. Okay, so let's perform our check. So we solved to find that y is equal to 12. So now let's perform our substitution where we will replace y for 12 everywhere that it appears in our equation. And we're solving to make sure that both sides of our equation is equal to the exact same thing. So 9 will return. 12 minus 3 is equal to 9. And we know that whenever our numerator and our denominator equal to the same thing, that means it is equal to 1 whole. So that means our y equals 12 is the correct answer for this equation, and the answer does prove the equation to be accurate. So make sure that you get some practice in. You know, these questions tend to look difficult at first, but once you dive in and you start applying the rules that you know, you eventually find that it's not as hard as you think it is. So I hope this was able to help you, and make sure that you put in some additional practice. And when you're ready, return back to Jules, so we make math easy.